Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Samach Gimel Amud Aleph. 3 lines from the bottom. The Gemara continues making different statements in the name of Reish Lakish. Says the Gemara, Omer Rav Kahana, Omer Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. V'amri lo Amar Rabbi Asi, Omer Reish Lakish. V'amri lo Amar Rabbi Abba, Omer Reish Lakish. Kol ha-megadel kelev ra b'toich beisoi, monea chesed b'toich beisoi. Somebody who raises a dangerous dog in his house, he is holding back chesed from his home. People who normally come, anim and others that need tzedakah or chesed, hachnasas orchim, are now afraid to come to the person's house because he has a dangerous animal, dangerous dog. Shenemar, the Gemara says the following pasuk. I'll quote the entire pasuk from Iyov. The pasuk says as follows: Lamos mere'eu chosed, v'yiras shaka ya'azoiv. One who holds back chesed and forsakes the yiras Hashem. Lomas mere'eu chosed, says the Gemara, he holds back from his friend chesed. Shekaim beloshin yevonis korin la kelev lamos. Lamos is a reference to kelev, that because of his kelev, he's holding back performing chesed. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Omar af parek mimenu yira shomayim. He also is going to then throw off from himself yira shomayim, shenem, as it says in the latter part of the pasuk, v'yira shaka ya'azoiv. He forsakes yiras Hashem. When a person has trust in Hashem, he's aware of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he relies on Hashem. When a person therefore has a dog that he relies on to be his security, therefore he forsakes the awareness of Hashem, whereby that person then is yiras shaka ya'azoiv. Says the Gemara the following ma'isa, the following incident. Hayitisa da'ile lahu beisa lemeifa. There was a woman who was given the reshus to use a certain person's oven to bake with. Novak ba kalbo is aker vlada. The dog of this person's house, of this homeowner, barked, frightened this woman who was pregnant, and she miscarried. Omar lo mori deveso. The balabai said to her, Lo tidichli, the shakili nive v'shikle tirfrei. Don't be concerned, don't be afraid. I took out his canine teeth, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, and I also removed his claws, so don't worry, he cannot hurt you. Amrole, she said to him, Shakula tivusech v'shade achizri. Take your toiva and throw it in the thorns. Meaning, you already caused me damage. Kvar nod Vlad. My Vlad already became moved. Meaning to say that she miscarried as a result of this terrible fear of the dog. From here you see that we're talking about even a dog that's not dangerous, that appears to be dangerous even if he's actually not. Because a dangerous dog, the Gemara somewhere else in Bava Kama darshans the pasuk that says, Los hosim domim beveisecha. Don't place dam, blood, in your house. The Gemara learns that to be a kelev ra. So there, it's talking about a kelev ra that actually is truly dangerous. Whereas our Gemara, you see clearly from this incident, is referring to somebody who has a dog that appears to be dangerous, even if he's not really dangerous, whereby people are afraid to come to his house and he holds back, he's withholding chesed. Says the Gemara, Rav Huna, Mai dichsiv smach bochor biyaldusecho, v'yativcha libcha b'mei bichuroisecho. Rejoice, young man, in your youth, and let your heart do good in your youthfulness. V'halech b'darchei libecha, and go in the ways of your heart. V'mara einech, in the way that your eyes see. The pasuk goes on to say, V'da, and know ki al kol ele v'yecha Elokim b'mishpat. And all of these things, Elokim HaKadosh Baruch Hu will judge you. Explains Rav Huna, Ad kan divrei yetzer hara, mikan ve'elach divrei yetzer toiv. The first part of the pasuk that says that rejoice, young man, in your youth and go after your heart, that's referring to the Yetzer Hara. It's a way of hefkerus. Whereas when it says V'daki al kol eile yivyecha elokim b'mishpat, that refers to the Yetzer HaTov, where the rational mind of a person tells him what is correct to do and what is not correct to do, because there'll be a judgment and he'll get schar oynesh that he has to be careful from. Another way of explaining this, Reish Lakish Omar, Ad kan li divrei Torah, mikan ve'elach lamaisim tovim. The first part of the pasuk is referring to divrei Torah. Mashe liboy chafetz, what your heart desires, learn that which your heart desires to learn. However, the latter pasuk says, and all that you're learning, v'daki al kol eile yivyecha elokim b'mishpat, because whatever you learn, it shall bring you to maisim. In other words, your learning will mechayiv you to then perform the proper acts, the proper maisim tovim, and therefore that's referring to the divrei Torah in the Reisha and the maisim tovim in the seif of the pasuk. The Gemara now quotes the Mishnah that says, "Biris tahara v'yotzin l'reshus harabim." Biris do not mekabel tuma. However, you are allowed to then bring them out also on Shabbos and walk with them on Shabbos. That's in regards to biris. However, the Mishnah goes on to say that indeed there's something called kivolim. That is, yes, mekabel tuma, and you're not allowed to go out with them on Shabbos. Explains the Gemara. Amar Rav Yehuda, biris zu etzada. Biris refers to etzada. Etzada is a armband. Ask the Gemara, if it's an armband, then why is it not mekabel tuma? Mosi Rav Yosi biris tahara v'yotzad b'Shabbos. It says in the Mishnah that biris is tahara, is not mekabel tuma, and you can go out with it on Shabbos. V'ilu etzada tameyahi, but a armband is mekabel tuma. Says the Gemara, hachi ka'amar. This is what he meant to say. Biris tachas etzada oimedes. That the biris is not the armband, but in place of that is actually put on the woman's leg. She uses it to then hold up her stockings. And therefore, it's not mekabel tuma, because it serves as a kli for another kli. Just as if you would have, let's say, a teacup, and around the holder of the teacup you put a metal circle, and then you'd use that to hang, let's say, on the wall with. So that metal circle is not going to be mekabel tuma, because it's served as a kli that's serving another kli. So to over here, this is not going to be mekabel tuma, because this is merely holding up the stockings. However, a woman could go out with this on Shabbos, because this is an accessory to allow her to wear her stockings, whereby it's considered to be a malbush. Says the Gemara, Yosiv Ravin v'Rav Huna kamei de Rav Yirmiyahu, that Ravin and Rav Huna were sitting in front of Rav Yirmiyahu. The Mefarshim explained that Rav Huna over here is not the classical Rav Huna that we normally see in Shas, but this is a different Rav Huna, because Rav Huna is much older and would not have sat with submission in front of Rav Yirmiyahu. So it's a different Ravin and Rav Huna that's sitting in front of Rav Yirmiyahu. V'yosiv Rav Yirmiyahu v'kamenamnim. And Rav Yirmiyahu, he began falling asleep. V'yosiv Ravina v'kamar. And Ravina sat down and he said the following: Biris be'achas kivolim b'shtayim. Biris is referring to one, and kivolim refers to two. Omar Rav Huna, elu ve'elu b'shtayim. They're both two. In other words, biris is put on each of the legs, again to hold up the stockings, and the kivolim is also two. Is going to be chains that actually go from one area to the other area, one leg to the other leg. Umatilin shalshelis beinayim v'nasu kivolim. That they actually call that they're little chains that go between the two legs that hold up, that are attached to the biris. These are called kivolim. Ask the Gemara, we know it says in the Mishnah, kivolim are mekabel tuma. So ask the Gemara, v'shalsheles shebo mashve leimona, the fact that there is now a chain that makes this biris called a kavolim now, because of the chains, the chain itself makes it into a kli, that it's now mekabel tuma. Biris alone is not mekabel tuma, we said. But now that it has a chain attached to it, that's now going to make it mekabel tuma, calling it a kavolim. If you want to say like Rabbi Shimon bar Nachmani, no Rabbi Shimon bar Nachmani, Rabbi Yochanan, who said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, minayin lemashmiya kol bikli matecho shehu tomei. From where do we know that metal kli that makes sound is mekabel tuma? This we saw about 5 daf before in regards to the inbal. The Gemara asks, does the inbal make the bell a kli? Because you put this little piece inside the bell and it makes it ring, that makes now the bell a kli. To which the Gemara now brought, similarly, the same brisa, that maybe you'll say that indeed we find that indeed a voice, a noise, a sound that comes from a mateches does make it into a kli. As follows, Shneimar, it says in the pasuk, Kol dova asher yavo ba'esh. Anything that was passed through Eish, then will also then come out and become purified through Eish. Afilu dibur b'mashma. The drasha is that the word Kol davar is superfluous, to where they darshan afilu dibur, even that which is a sound, is going to also then make something mekabel tuma. Bishlama hasom, over there, kaboy lakola v'kovid maisa. Over there, in regards to, let's say, a bell, where we see that the bell makes noise around the neck of a para, in order for the owner to know that the para is in the vicinity. So therefore, that's causing a sound that's effective, doing a maisa. But hacha my maisa ka'avid. What is the sound of these chains? What's the effect? What's the purpose of them? That they should then mekabel tuma. The Gemara says, hacha nami ka'avid maisa. No, this is also for a maisa. What is the maisa? Damar Rabba Barachano Rabbi Yochanan Mishpacha Achas Haisa B'Yushalayim. There was a family in Yerushalayim. Shahayu P'Sioisen Gasois Vayu B'Slosein Noishrois. That the women would walk with wide strides, very quickly, and that would cause their besulois to fall off, and therefore Osulen Kevolim V'Itilu Shalsheles Beineim. Therefore, they made these chains to attach to the kivolim. They were called kivolim, to attach to the biris, and that would then enable the women to be sure to then walk with much more narrow strides, whereby their besulas won't fall off. And therefore, this had a maisa, and therefore the sound would make it indeed into a kliyas mekabel tuma. Isarbuhu Rabbi Yirmiyahu. Meanwhile, Yirmiyahu woke up. Omarlu, he said to him, Yasher, this is straightforward, this is correct. V'chein Omar Rabbi Yochanan, and similarly, I heard this from Rabbi Yochanan. Kiyos Rabbi Yochanan, when Rabbi came, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan the following: Minayin la'orig koshu shutame. In regards to the subject of a piece of cloth, a beged. Normally, a beged to become tameh, if it comes from a bigger beged, if it's cut, for example, the most makel opinion is gimal etzbos. That's the size of a beged that's mekabel tuma. But over here, Rav Dimi says in Rabbi Yochanan, where do we find that a orig, a woven beged, is even going to mekabel tuma when it is a kol shehu, less than that minimum amount? He answers meitzitz. He said the name of Rabbi Yochanan, meitzitz, from the tzitz that the Kohen Gadol wore on his forehead. In other words, he's understanding that the golden tzitz that we know to be golden is referring to the golden threads that were used to make the tzitz. And therefore, from there we learn, since the tzitz did not have such a wide type of space, therefore it was considered to be a minimum and less than three gimal etzbos. Amalei Abai v'tzitz ariku. Abai challenges and says, but is tzitz indeed an arug, like you're suggesting it came from golden threads? V'atani, the Brisa says tzitz kemin tashel zov. that it's a golden plate. V'roichav shtei etzbos, which has the roichav of 2 etzbos, umukach me'oizen la'oizen, and it goes from one ear and extends to the other ear as a head plate. Because of our love, bebei shitin, yud k, meaning yud k vav k, lemala on top, v'kodesh lamid lemata, and kodesh with a lamid underneath it, saying kodesh la Hashem, the yud k vav k. So we see over here that indeed it was a metal plate, not a woven thread. Says the Gemara, I even saw Be'iroimi. When I went to Rome and I was allowed into the treasury, because of it says, one of the things I saw was the tzitz. And it says over there on the tzitz, I read, Kodesh la Hashem b'shita achas. It said, Kodesh la Hashem on one shita. But wherever way it was written, we see over here that the tzitz was indeed a golden plate. So how can you suggest that you learned that the arug kol shehu can be learned out from a tzitz? Says the Gemara, Ki solik Rav Dimi leneherdo. Rav Dimi went up to the neherdo. Sholach luhu dvarim shamarti lachem tos hem biyadi. That which I said to you earlier was a mistake. He was choizer boy. Biram, however, he says, in truth, Kach Amru Mishum Rabbi Yochanan. This is what they said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. The following: Minayin letachshit kol shehu shuhu tame. Where do I know that a tachshit, even though normally a kli doesn't make a difference the size of the kli is makabel tuma, but if it's a tachshit, an ornament, that has to have a size. So do I know that a kol shehu, even a small tachshit, that will makabel tuma? On that, he says the source is mitzitz. However, minayin la'arig kol shuhu shuhu tame. Where do I know that a woven beged that has a small size of a kol shuhu is also mekabel tuma? Me'oi beged. By tuma shrotzin, the pasuk says oi beged. The word oi is superfluous, whereby we make a drasha that oi is saying even a beged that is the size of a kol shuhu, a minimum amount, is also mekabel tuma.